Spartans! What is your profession? This is Sparta!
What is going on, everybody? We're back at it with another episode, and this is a juicy one. So we're gonna have to put some ground rules down. Before we do that, please do me a favor: hit the like, share, and subscribe. It will be very entertaining tonight. Before we get into the topic, let's get this guy in here. He's ready to box. He's ready to jump him down. I can't hold him anymore. So let's get Black David in the house. So let's hear him for him.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How's everybody doing? This is
What is
Black
going on,
David.
my man?
I'm doing good. Had a pretty long day, but it was very productive. And I found myself locking my head as usual, just strategizing, trying to figure out my next plan going to be financially speaking. So I'm hoping and praying that thing goes well for me. I
Mhm.
even realized today what the funeral service for Jimmy Carter was. I saw something very interesting, weird. How Obama and Trump were just chatting like they were old school friends. I was like, interesting.
Yep. So, David, before we get too ahead of us, let's get him in here. All right. He is elected, Mr. Elected President again for third term. Please rise for the president of the Bold Brothers Hoods.
It's only been one season, guys. So how can it be a third term?
Well, technically, you've been doing this for a while.
Unlike some politicians, I don't want to over embellish my record. So,
You're stuck in this role, my man.
oh, I know. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna. I don't need to embellish my record. I've got the biggest crowds of all time. See, I'm not going there. I'm not.
All right. Before we get into the topic, I gotta put some ground rules down tonight. Whenever we refer to the topic, we are going to refer as X or corn. I don't need to get strike by from YouTube. So we are talking about X-rated topics. Is it poison to your brain? Is it not poison to your brain? Is it healthy to watch it? Is it not healthy to watch it? So my personal opinion, I'm gonna take the floor first, really fast, because I want to actually.
Of course, you're gonna take the floor first. It's your time.
It's my show.
You're not just gonna throw it out there and then have us run with it. No, you take you started this combo, so you kick it off.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the floor for a second, guys. Okay. I came to an article a couple years back. I would say 8-9 years ago. A video on YouTube, believe it or not, talking about is X-rated topic poison to your brain. Yes, it is, but does not give you a good cessation of sexual encounter, relationship. I don't get me wrong. I know people have fetishes, and that's the best way they can live their fantasies through videos. But when you actually have that on a some type of a high pedestal, is not healthy for you. So you need to find the healthy ground. As teenagers, yes, you're going to watch it. You're going to do a lot of things, even with lotion. So we need to find the middle ground of that. When is it not healthy? Once you start hitting adulthood, I think that should be cut out of your life. Like quitting smoking, it's a very hard habit to kick at some point. So I want to get the guys in and get their opinion in. I'll put David in first because he was on first. So let's get his wake up.
Well, I'm awake. I was texting something. I was also going to drop in my mind. This topic is not something so simple to get on, but let me be completely honest and put my phone down and speak on this. This is my summary. This has been a age-old argument going back late 80s, early 90s. I think it has something to do with the case of the United States government versus Hustler, if I'm correct, concerning the provocateur magazine sale being in newsstand, whereby they had to cover up all kind of things. Where you have a lot of parents were concerned when their kid walk into school to see these unruly magazines being sold at the newsstand when it should have been out in the public, should be hidden somewhere, so a kid cannot be able to see such thing. This is something that have been a ongoing battle based on morality. Now, I don't know what if I can say they're totally correct, but based on my biblical faith, that is the problem. But now, if you ask on the ground on what you do within your own personal relationship with your spouse, it could get tricky. And I'm looking at the more logical aspect of things because let's be frank, we have all have made this joke before in the past. How we claim that our parents was old school, don't really enjoy their marriage, it was just lame. How was he just lay down the and that's it. No spark, no nothing. Would now keep them going. They just automatically on a automatic system. Okay, I work, I tow the land, I come home, I dropped a couple of coins on the table. You figure out to do with the bill. I go and get my smoke pipe. I go outside on the porch, smoke a couple, relax myself. You help take care of the kids. I come and help. Then we do the same cycle all over again. It's like how some people today millennium, mundane, boring, lame. So it brings the argument, what are you doing to keep the spark in your relationship? Is this bad for a relationship? Is it good for a relationship? Should we not invite it in the relationship? This is something sometimes you might have to bring marriage couple, no, marriage experts who have been married longer than me, besides the president of the Seven Beautiful Bees, bald headed, but I will say, so her speak, understand this part as well because there have been a few minutes that have spoke about don't be afraid to speak how you want to enjoy your marriage. And sometimes it could be a little bit X-rated. So if you look at the playing field, it's not so simple. There's a pro and a con to the situation, but logically speaking, it's not something I can say you can get a fixed answer on this. That is my point.
Okay. Well, to put it mildly, this is a highly layered, complex topic. And if I'm going to talk about this intelligently, or at least try to, I got to do it sort of in sort of modules here. Because I think every, like a lot of different topics, we want to look at this in particular in isolation and not look at the larger topics. So when we talk about deletions of infants, when we want to talk about guns, everybody wants to sort of pinpoint a particular point, but not look at the larger, is there a larger issue at play here? And I find it interesting because I see a lot of, for example, gun advocates still say, well, guns don't kill people. People kill people. So if you're a pro Second Amendment type of person, you would say that, don't take away my guns. Especially if I'm a legal gun carrier, I'm owner, I take responsibility when using that. This country at one time tried prohibition because people thought that's going to be the answer to everything. Let's ban alcohol. And we saw how that went. Didn't go very well. I would even say there's probably the majority of people who are gun owners who consume alcohol. Not that I'm a fan of either ones. I've never drank, and I will probably never own a gun. Sorry, Peter. So I find that, people will use that argumentation when saying, when it comes to those things, but when it comes to the X, they say we need to kind of get rid of that. That's destroying everyone and whatnot. And I don't think the data supports that. Now, again, if I want to go into my morality, if I'm going to bring morality into it, there's only one morality. Man and woman, you get married and you can do anything you want. And there's nothing called X-rated. What I don't like is when you say, even with married people, this X-rated. There's nothing X-rated about it. As long as you have consenting adults, what's X-rated? So I don't like that association that people make with even when people are doing it, quote unquote, legally. My Bible says that the marital bed is undefiled. So whatever you guys decide to do, however, what society may think how kinky it is, that's y'all. That y'all figure that out. And that's the great thing about it is that everyone comes as an individual. We all have our likes, our dislikes, our quirks, our proclivities, or whatever. And I think one of the nice things about marriage is if you're truly coming into it with a healthy perspective, you get to sort all that stuff out, and you do it within a safe environment to explore yourself. Because I've always believed that sexual knowledge is self-knowledge. You learn more about yourself in that sexploration, if you will. So I don't like even putting titles of X-rated or whatever in, so whatever you into. And I don't have a right to judge that, and neither does anybody else. So I leave those out. So that's the morality side for me. No sex before marriage, and get married and have all the sex you want. That's biblical. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 7. So that's as much preaching as I will do on the subject. Now, when it comes to, I will call it self-soothing, interesting enough, the Bible doesn't mention it. And so, that's a quote taken from my show title, Pete. That's a gray area in my view, because there's nothing in there. People want to talk about the sin of Onan because he didn't impregnate someone. That's a totally different kind. People try to use that verse and they totally take it out of context. That's not what his violation was, that he wouldn't impregnate the widow of his brother, which was at that time, they called it Levirate marriages, where if your brother died and he had a spouse and they didn't have any kids, that you were supposed to marry that woman and have a kid with her. He didn't finish the job. He had sex with her, but he didn't finish the job. That was a sin. It has nothing to do about soothing yourself. So that's always been a gray area with me. And I know people debate that and stuff, and your thoughts are sinful and all that. Yeah, well, they're going to be sinful anyway. So that's the religious part for me. It's pretty cut and dry. And because one thing I don't want to do, and a lot of people are saying that, oh, well, it's bad to watch that or engage in that. I'm going to ask this question now more from a secular level. What's the alternative? Because if you say that that's unhealthy, either you're going to have people just remain celibate and do absolutely nothing, or you're going to have them get involved in more dangerous activity. And we have to understand something. And I think even in 2024, for some reason, we've lost sight of this. Now, me and David probably grew up in this time, and we remember this, but sex used to be looked at as dangerous. Because we would say, don't spend your time doing that. Get with a woman. That's dangerous. STDs, pregnancy, complications just relationally, especially if you're not together. That could put you in a very vulnerable situation. So as far as activities, I could think of a lot more activities that are more dangerous. The real thing is dangerous, especially if you're not doing it in the right context. Drinking is dangerous. Smoking is dangerous. Drugs is dangerous. So as far as where does this lie on in terms of my danger scale, it's kind of on the low side. I would rather have a person, a male, shoot his load, if you will, into a tissue than take a gun, a load from a caliber of a gun and shoot that somewhere else. But that now we're starting to get into a larger issue. Why is it that young men and young women aren't getting together? Why aren't people marrying? Why aren't people doing things in the natural way? And I think society itself, for the long game and in the short run, what we've seen in the last few years, has really made that harder. So you got to look at one thing for sure is you got to look at biology. Why is it, especially if you got believers here, why is it that men and women can not only have sex, but also procreate in their youth, in their teens, or even before teens? Why is that? If God didn't want that to happen, then why is it that that's even allowed? Why don't we mature? Why don't we mature at 18, 21, or whatever the age is that, that people think it's safe to do these things? Why is that? So what caused it to now where people used to get married, even in my mom's generation? If you were 21 years old, you weren't married, you was like, what's wrong with you? You must be an old maid. You should be married by 21. 18 was the norm in my mom's time. So what happened? Society said, push it back. Economics said, push it back. 21, 25, 30. What's the average age of people getting married now? 30, 35? So you become sexually mature in your teens, but you're putting off marriage until your 30s. And you expect, especially the moral people, you expect them to be totally non-sexual until marriage at 35. Good luck with that. How realistic is that? What is a person supposed to do in the meantime? Yeah, pray and fast. You can try that, but even Apostle Paul said, look, if that ain't you need to do, you need to get married. So we made marriage harder. And in recent years, since I've been in this space, we're going on 5 years in this YouTube space. I know YouTube's been out a lot longer, but we've had this manosphere space and this MGTOW space and all these things that are basically poisoning, in my view, the minds of men and women, saying men are bad, women are bad, no good women left, no good men left. So again, I might be better off. You're basically telling me, well, if there's no good women out there, you're basically telling me I might be better off just having my ex and doing my thing because of all these problems and complications I'm going to have trying to get with somebody. So people been beat over the head with that. So society has done a lot to poison the well that then makes these other options more attractive. But we want to pin it on this thing, just like we want to pin it on guns, just like we put it on alcohol or whatever. Yeah. In a large sample size, you're going to have some people who, if you're not developmentally, yeah, it could do some damage to you. But is that the majority of people? I don't think so. But so I'm not going to make a blanket statement. Yeah, we need to get rid of all of it. What's the alternative? And as far as this comment here, we're talking about, commitment and what I agree, but about commitment, I'm all about commitment. But when do you make it? If people aren't committing until their 30s, yet you starting to feel, get those urges and emotions and biological changes in your early teens, what are you supposed to do in the meantime? So to Pete's point, you're saying, okay, well, when you get to an adulthood, maybe you should just roll that off. And I would agree with that. Get with a woman, get married, and do whatever you want. Pretty simple to me. But that's not happening. And a lot of spaces, especially in social media and in YouTube, are not making that process any easier. So, yeah, it's a great plan. But until you deal with these larger societal issues, also the economics of such that's preventing people from getting married because it's getting expensive out there. And this country talks about family values, but its public policies, I don't think necessarily are encouraging, especially young people, younger millennials and Gen and Gen Zs to marry. So so we say we want these outcomes, but again, society doesn't make, society's what it says doesn't line up what it does. Back in the day, you didn't have a teen sex or pregnancy problem because most teenagers were married. But now everybody's just doing whatever. So again, I probably touched on 6 or 7 points. Like I said, this isn't my show. This isn't my dialogue or what this is, but I can go in any number of directions here. But I think we're looking at this, like the problem, like this is the problem. But there's a greater problems that if we don't deal with those, all the rhetoric about this is bad and we need to get rid of this, I don't think that's going to really get us anywhere, because at the end of the day, we are sexual beings. We're probably the most sexual, amongst the most sexual in the animal kingdom, because everybody else has seasons and periods when they are ready. We're kind of spontaneous. I think us and I think dolphins and some bonobos or something, we might be the only ones who we just do it for pleasure. Everybody else is like, they're on a program. So unless you deal with it, in all those different levels, I don't see what the alternative. But if you're asking people to engage in activity, the real thing, you better be careful what you're saying, because that could, like I said, that can be a lot more dangerous than what we're talking about tonight. So that's a lot, but where you want to take that, Peter, I have no idea. But that's
let me jump on.
So hang on, David. Hang on, because something to post that I want to touch base before we move forward, and then you can have the floor. All right, as I'm just drawing my desk here. You said this is not a show, so I'm going to correct you right now, Paul. I might be the host of this show, but this show is as much as mine as yours. I can't do this by myself. I have told you this in private multiple times.
I recognize that. I recognize that. I'm saying, but you are the executive producer. You pick the topics. This is your show. I mean, I'm not here trying to bum rush the show. I'm just saying there. I'm going to do this show in the context that you set, because again, this is your program. Fine. So respect
I just want you to understand.
But I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, because this is your channel as much as mine. So, like, even topics we talk about on gray area, this stuff, some of it comes from you too, or David, or Wally, whoever. You guys are my team, so I want to clear that in public now. This show does not run on Spartan by himself. It runs on Earthquake, aka Black David, and Mr. President here. So, Dave, go ahead. You're going to say something. Go ahead. It's
I'm
the
just,
floor is
I'm
yours.
I'm just going to say this. When I listen to Big Brother Paul Bennett speak, when he speak, it's something that's not only informative but also educated. He hit on a lot of area, but he hit the source issue. I was thinking the same thing he was thinking, not from the American standpoint, but a civilized standpoint. In the U.S., people were getting married young, which is no different overseas as well. I remember Poor Man Podcast, shout out to him. He had mentioned one particular community in one country in Europe, I believe, they push a culture whereby they're not allowing their young generation to be like us. If you're feeling frisky, whatever girl you like, that's the girl you go be with. We're not gonna have you bounce around like Jackrabbit, having multiple baby mamas. You're not doing that. It was enforced within the community because he mentioned it. By teen, they're mature. Okay, if we want to talk about maturity, Mr. Bennett, tell me if I'm wrong. What the age now we hearing kids are having sex these days? Is it not around 12,
Oh,
13,
I
14?
mean, I've heard as early as middle school, 12, 11, 12.
Okay,
I mean, yeah, it's
now look at that. They're starting even much earlier, 12, 13, 14. They even put 11 into that phase of thing. So when you plan to wait until they're mature to do that, so they're okay to have sex, but you're doing everything backwards. It's okay to have sex, but it's not okay to get married. It's okay to have sex and have kids, but not okay to get married. Wouldn't be married be the thing that protect both sex and childbearing and keep it sacred, but keep it holy and keep it safe? But we live in a society that want to push everything far back. Oh, get married later. But now we're hearing the thing about society collapse because we don't have enough young people to support the elderly folks. Who forces that? Who created that bullshit in the first place? Because since it's all about the career, it's all about the money, not all about family building. But was it not family building that created the economy in the first place? If I'm not mistaken.
absolutely. And you need
So,
2.2.1. That's the numbers.
so I would like to know, logically speaking, to everybody listening to this conversation, who would the nincompoop, the idiot, the retarded jackass, the good for nothing buffoon, the uneducated, claim to be educated baboon that suggested that it is better to get married later than get married earlier?
Well,
Because
I don't.
I,
Yeah,
I'm trying to
I don't
come.
think that was intentional. I think it is a byproduct. I think capitalism has a lot to do with it
I believe so too.
because again, capitalism says that you have to have a certain size. Again, it was De Beers, the diamond company, that said if you want to get engaged, an engagement ring should be 2.5 times what your salary was. Back in the day, your engagement ring could have been your grandmother's ring, your mother's ring, or whatever, a family heirloom. But
Hmm.
then people started thinking that, okay, I got to have this in order to be married. And back in the day, people would get married, had nothing. The longest marriages I know were the ones that were the poorest. They got
Okay.
married cheap. They got married in their backyard. They weren't trying to get a $50,000 hall and a $50,000 caterer.
Okay.
They
Now
fried chicken in the back.
let me
And
ask you
with the
that one.
potato salad and the cake, they baked the cake and then they got married. They got a couch off the street. They lived in a 1-bedroom shack they built up. But
So
now I got to have my 6 figures. I got to have my Mercedes. I got to have all my stuff together in order to be married.
now, Mr. Paul, while you saying that they would be in America, at the same time zone overseas, you didn't need 2 goats and 1 sheep, a couple of chickens,
Yeah.
So before we
goats.
move on,
No,
it's a
no goat.
question in the
No,
chat.
no
I want
goat.
to
No
touch
goats. No
base.
goats. Goats. I'm getting on point of that because what you're referring to an American standard, African other standard would say, okay, you don't need much. Just give me 2 goats, a couple of chickens, a nice palm wine, whatever, and we use that to celebrate, right? It wasn't much. You don't have
You
to get
don't need much. That's the
you don't
thing.
no you don't need a huge acre of land. They give you a small land. They give you you can build your shack up. Just make sure you don't overpopulate your wife. Don't have her overwork that you keep putting too many bread in the oven because you have some do back in the days. They couldn't they couldn't take their hand off the woman. They have like 9 kids. They have like 15 kids. Like God, like can't you get a break? Nah, I love her. You before you know you got 2 football fields full of kids who could take the whole army. That was back then. We were popping more than enough kids who can fill the workforce. Now you got the freezing egg society. Melissa Ford, a perfect poster child example of a failed woman. I call that I see it. You cheated on a good man. I mean, you were never good to begin with. You know, different
So we
for
have a
Joy
question in
Taylor.
the chat really fast. Hang on, David. So the question in the chat is, so careers and financial also takes progress over marriage now. As well, sex is no longer an act of love. Women give it up in a blink of an eye. So why would a man marry or respect that? Who wants to take that
Okay.
first?
So that's four. That's well. First of all, there's 4 points. You can't. He's whoever this is, Baba, BKZ, Baba. 4 different points, but this is kind of what I've been saying. You're trying to you're trying to narrow it down to this thing. Why would all that stuff that you talked about has been built up over time? So again, career and finances take precedence over marriage now as well. That's exactly what I've been saying. Society has said, forget marriage, focus on your career. You need money, all those things. Whereas in generations past, people got married who had nothing. In fact, marriage was one of the ways that you were able to escalate or elevate yourself. Because again, 2 is better than 1. I was literally having this conversation with my daughter this past Sunday. And because she's talking about, she wants to live on her own. She makes, I guess, better than average salary, but she can't afford to live on her own. And so I said, look, you only got, at this point, you got 2 options. Or 3, quite frankly. You either stay here, save your chips, and build up enough until you can get your own place. Second, you get a bunch of roommates and deal with that drama. Or third, you get married to someone who's making around the same money that you are, and possibly, and she's got a guy. So again, if they ever decide to, get married, I think that could work. But again, there's so much in terms of the society being as expensive as it is. These young people, I mean, you need, especially I'm in New Jersey. I don't know where you're at, but Jersey, New York, tri-state area, 6 figures is middle class here, lower middle class here. It's not 100K isn't not that much. That dollar doesn't stretch that far here. So
Facts.
that's one thing. Sex is no longer an act of love. I think it's again, sex is been varied. Yes, it can be certainly an act of love, but at the same time, they say that I won't use the proper word, but we all know what the oldest profession is. So it's always been transactional. Even people who are married, they treat sex as a transaction.
That is true.
So, so that has always been with us. And the hard part is getting people to understand that sex should never be a transactional act, but people treat it that way. Now, women give it up in a blink of an eye. So why would a man marry or respect that? Well, again, who are they giving it up to?
good question.
See, this is again this bubble that we've been in for the last 5 years. It's almost like people
I
don't know math.
mean,
One plus one is two. All of these attacks on women. Women are loose and all that. There's a forget just the Pookies and Ray Rays. Everybody's trying to get with women. So it's not like they're doing this on their own. So again, it's and even if you found a woman like that, at what age are you going to marry her? Back to your first question. So if you're not going to marry that woman at 16, 17, 18, 19, or under 21 years old, if you're not going to be ready for that, then what difference does it make? So again, this is layered, man. I mean, what we've been taught, what society has fashioned over decades, has put people in this situation to say, why even deal with all this? So back to the original point of the show, a young man might be like, it ain't even worth it. So I'd be a heck of a lot safer in engaging in that activity than dealing with this stuff outside. You all you're doing is you're just making a case for the activity.
whoa.
But this is what society has done.
So let me add this question to it. And this is what we're dealing with in today's society. How can some of us who are completely detached from the society, that me included, how can we find another society outside this society? Because the way I'm looking at it like this, you and I have been on this panel. I've been on this panel not only on this platform but multiple platforms. Well, I always ask this question: what is the value system are you promoting? That has always been the key issue what's going on with today's society. What is considered to be viable, what is considered not valuable. And this person question say career and finance has also take better over marriage. So the American society is saying career and finance is more important than marriage. But yet at the same token you're complaining about single motherhood. There are too many single moms. But you just said career and finance is more important than marriage. So how can you say one thing is not important, but at the same time complain about it? So what is your value system in that aspect of things? But I said, you have women going out here giving up sex as easy as a flick of an eye. Okay, we just had to fight. They threw like a hot dog down the hallway. Now, we can't say all women are doing the same thing, but we also find out those who are considered to be good women, we don't see them outside no more because they don't want to be associated with the dirty batch. So I'm no go to probably know this very well. You know people who just that become hermit. They go to work, they get their job done,
They go to the gym.
go to the gym. After the gym, keep their ass home quickly. They don't want to be noticed by nobody. They completely isolate themselves from everybody because they realize it's hard to find who's legit, who's not legit. That is our issue right now today because this topic, I can tell on multiple panels I've been on, they haven't even trying to go past the surface level. They don't want to go deep because when we start to go deep, it becomes a circular argument. Mr. Paul and I would say this, we're not looking for a circular argument. What are the issues that we are overlooking? What is the source of the power? If we find out the source of the power, what are the solutions that we can take or initiate that can reverse this process? I know it's not going to happen overnight, but how can we turn the tide over on the good side instead of leaving it on the bad side? Because as many times I bring this question up, or I'm told, I'm here. I know you thought it goes with Bala, or I can't speak on this issue because I'm not FBA, but this is not an FBA issue. This is a society issue. This is a family issue. This is a community building issue, which consists of people from different ethnic groups. But if other ethnic groups already find a solution ahead of us and we want to ignore it, then what they say about our value, that we are ignorant. If that will be the case? because
So
you
here's the
can't
thing,
place.
David. And we were saying it. I heard you guys say it right. This has been a problem for since the '60s and the '80s. I
Mhm.
think it's been a problem longer than that. I think the problem has started since mankind's been around. To be honest with you, because
Yeah,
what?
yeah. I guess I was talking more in recent terms, but I would even put religion at fault to an extent,
Okay,
especially even in Christianity, because again, if you read the Bible for what it is, the Bible is very much pro-sex. Religion, though, has been historically anti-sex. So you had the Puritans, and you had all these things. Sex is bad. Sex is dirty. Sex is evil. Blah blah blah.
hmm
And when it comes to women, now the guy talked about women earlier. The Bible is also very equal when it comes to sexuality between men and women.
Uh-huh.
But the way societies across the world have looked at when it comes to women and sex, I think it goes against God. Because again, men and women are equally sexual. They're capable.
That is factual.
But when a man, but I've said this on panels before, and not everyone's agreed, but again, a man's masculinity to a large extent is tied to his sexuality.
Facts.
So a masculine man is sexual and a sexual man is masculine. However, we rarely have never tied femininity to a woman's sexuality. So a man goes out there and he's the Mac, he's the man, he gets all the women. Was that guy Tate in the world? He brags about all the women that he's able to get. He's the man. If a woman is sexual, then she's looked at in a different way. But again, in the scriptures, it makes no distinction between a man and a woman. A woman has not only a right to be sexual, she has a right to be pleased by her husband. But again, societies all over the world, if a woman talks about her sexuality anyway, she's loose, she's this, she's that. A man talks about his sexual prowess, he's the man.
why is that okay? That's a question we need to
It's
ask.
not okay. But I'm saying,
Thank you.
religion has propagated this. Your church, mine, just in general. That's what I'm saying. Oftentimes you have to separate religion from the faith, or religion from
The only thing I'm going to push back
whatever your source is, the Word of God or what the Bible or whatever.
Thank you.
Again,
That's
if
what I
you
was
look
going
in
with.
there, you're not going to find a lot of things that are taught.
So the only pushback I have is not only Christianity saying that, it's all religions, not only us. So it doesn't matter if you're Christian,
That is true.
Muslim. I'm sorry.
That is true. Very true.
Yeah. So it's all of it, because the way we are raised, everybody's raised different with sexuality. Let's be honest here for a second. Some may say, "This is how you're supposed to, a woman and man is supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to act." Again, I never understood why it's okay a man sleeping with 110 women. It's okay, but a woman sleeps with more than 5 men. That's not okay.
She's used. She's a thought. She's again. We give her every name in the book.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But then they'll say, "Oh, well, men and women are different. Men, men are built differently, and all the things that we want to say." And again, I don't think it's healthy for either one.
I agree.
But again, in these spaces, this has been the argument that has been raised. But it always comes at reducing a woman's sexuality. It maybe if we never did that, maybe if we raised our daughters, and I've tried to be as open with my daughters as possible when it comes to this, but if we wouldn't treat it as the boogeyman, we've had shows, I know on BMU's network, we've had shows on that. The way we teach our kids about sex, about their bodies, is awful. We're not giving them the real. We're not there for them to help them work through these things. It's like, hey, figure it out on your own. And how do we figure it out? Now, I come from the generation when the X was for, you had to be bold with it. So I grew up in a generation where we had the magazines in the 70s. And then we get to the 80s. Now you had to be a real man, because if you wanted, so when the videos started to come out, and if you wanted to watch something, you had to be bold. Now again, some guys, they made those novelty stores that were like on the seedy side of town that you drive up in and nobody cared because everybody was there for the same thing. But if you went into your local video store, and I'm not because I don't think Blockbuster, I don't think they've ever had a section for that, but other video stores in the 80s.
No, Blockbuster might have it. There's certain stores that will have
yes, the certain stores had it. There was the red curtain or the black curtain.
It's more the black curtain.
More the black curtain. You had to go behind the curtain in public and come out with your stuff.
But before you go in the curtain, you have to make sure nobody's watching.
No. It's I said that's a bold. I said bold. If you were a G back then,
yeah. Okay,
you would go in there. That's right. I'm going in. I'm going behind the curtain, and I'm coming out with 3 or 4 titles, and I'm walking up to the counter, and I'm putting them on the counter, and then the ladies looking at me or the guys looking at me up and down like I'm like, excuse me. You're here to do a job. Here, this is what I want. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Boom, out.
Or if it's a lady and she's watching you, if you give me a number, we can watch it together.
I never got that invitation.
Oh,
but I'm just saying. But back then, now everybody can hide. We talk about keyboard warriors stuff. Now everybody can hide behind their phones or their screens or whatever, in total privacy with this stuff. But you had to be a lot bolder back then. If you were going to engage it.
Paul, pay-per-view. You could order, your acts on pay-per-view.
Or if you got it through your cable, the scrambled page. In fact, I was watching. It was on my Instagram. Someone showed a picture. It says, they said, if you saw this, you were a bad boy. Because it was like you couldn't see anything, but it was like all wavy like this and stuff to scramble. You needed to put in the code of the scrambler or put the code in order to see those channels. But it was you could hear it. Or
you have someone who can decode it, whereby you can bypass that security protocol to prevent you from seeing it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you had that option back in the day. You had that option back in the day too. But nevertheless, I mean, the stuff was. The stuff was there, but yeah, to your earlier point, yeah, I mean, I think we haven't. So how a lot of us, if you're Gen X, how you came of age, oftentimes was through those materials.
Here's a better question for both of you guys: how would you rate X-rated content influence people's experience in a relationship or intimacy?
That's complicated because again, it's going to depend on how you were raised, what your exposure. If that's the only thing you've been exposed to, if nobody is going to like school you on what a right relationship looks like, yeah, it could be there. But it's just like again, if you haven't been taught the proper use of alcohol or the proper use of a gun.
Before they had these magazines, before they had these cassette tapes, I am damn well for sure the early society, when there were people who were talking about, do you know what it takes to deal with a woman? Do you know how to do it? And you hear these young generation of the yesteryear, they didn't have tape. They had to talk or describe. You know what? When you see a woman, do you know how to walk up to her? Do you know how to talk to her? Do you know how when you're about to have that? You know what to do? Do you know how to do it? You mean you have?
Well, hang on, pause, David. We got the expert right here. We might have one of the best systems ever invented. And I got to go, Pete. Look, you schooled me. How does a boy come of age? Don't look at me with that face. You schooled me on this.
What are you talking about now?
How does a boy in Greece? What is a father's responsibility to his son in Greece?
Uh-oh.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. That's
Oh,
where you're going. Okay, so
oh.
anybody hasn't seen our gray area, the episode. Well, remember the name of the topic episode for the chance?
It was growing up or something
Grown
to
up.
that effect. Yeah.
You seen on my library? Go back and watch it. So pretty much, a man, a father, takes
Thank
his
you.
son.
Say that. No, say that again now. Who?
A man and a father
Hmm.
Well, a
takes
boy. It'd
his
be a boy. It
son.
wouldn't be a man. It wouldn't be man. It would be his father.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Father would take who?
Yeah, his son
Yeah. Thank you.
to
I'm
a.
just saying. I mean, he's
Can I say that
I
word
think
on
that's
this?
important. I think that's
Continue,
important.
continue.
Yeah,
Put yourself on the big screen. Put yourself on the big
yeah.
screen. Describe it.
Okay, I'll blow myself up because I like blowing my ego up.
Really, really.
All right.
Put yourself.
So a man takes his son,
Hmm.
the son's father
Hmm.
takes his son to
Hmm.
a whorehouse, and he picks whatever woman he wants. They go behind closed doors, and they do the wimpy toompi, the
What?
go coyote, or mingo mingo, the whatever you want to call it. They don't wear the goggles like the thing that you wear on Extermination Man. You
Ninja
actually
Turtle
do
dance.
yeah. But she teaches you pretty much everything: how to put a condom on, how to do a few techniques. It's not like it's going to be bang, bang. Thank you, ma'am. I can't believe I said that. I feel like it's Paul now. Um, but that is an experience.
But we had somebody who was the last student who went through that type of phase. That was BMU. He was trained by a much older woman.
Yeah. A
And
couple guys in that space got schooled by an older woman. But again, that was just a woman who that wasn't under the auspices of parental
yeah, but
supervision.
outside this nation, wouldn't we consider that? We'll be saying, oh, you're getting some education on how to deal with a woman. Because if you go dating back in past society, it's similar to what Ghost Sparta said. Either the father take the son to the brothel, or you and your peers we try to see who's managed to go down the red district.
Let me ask you
And
a
when
question, David. Do they do that in Africa?
Yeah, I was about to ask you
uh,
what's the Nigerian education path?
I looked it up plenty of times. It's no different from what society have done back then. But during the time I was there, it's more like a tease because we were wearing a lot of uniform. We wasn't wearing regular clothes in high school. And by the time you get to middle school, that's when the girl starts to blow up and you see all type of shape. So among the guy, you figure out what kind of shit is attracted to you. Do you like the banana shape, which is called banana because some female are like, you like the orange shape, you like the watermelon, you like the peach. That was referring to the top side. Now, for the bottom side, it's more so the hip side. You like them small, you like them thick, you like them big, you like them skinny. There were different preferences. But the thing is, sometimes you get clowned on if your preference is not the popular preference. Your preference is weird. Who look at you like, are you sure you're your father's son? That'll be the joke. That would be the joke they're throwing in like, because you
So
know
let
your
me ask you
father. Your
guys a question really fast. Do you guys know the rating is of somebody being addicted to corn porn?
What the addiction? I can look it up. I can speculate on that.
I can tell you right now. Actually, I already have it up
Oh,
here.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So the percentages is 5 to 11 men get addiction, and only 3% of women get addicted to that.
Mhm. Which is like, well, that's what I
pretty low
started
for
with.
it to matter.
That's what I started with. And again, just like the alcoholic
hmm
or the gambler
hmm
or the whatever it is, even people who have food addictions, you
But
got to get to the source again. What is causing that? I mean, not everybody who watches, and again, that's something that again I've seen a lot of religious organizations try to do this or whatever. It's almost like guaranteed. It's like if you watch this, these things will happen. They used to say if you watch it, your eyes will fall out, or something will happen to something like that. Again, just like Even smoking. Now, again, I would never, ever recommend that someone smokes, ever.
I mean,
But if you look at the statistics of terms of the smokers who get lung cancer, it's not that big. If 50% of smokers got lung cancer, then I think that would be, if that's not enough incentive for you to stop smoking, then I don't know what would.
but think of it this
But
way.
what they say is your chances of getting lung cancer increase exponentially if you smoke. That is what the it actually says. But it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that if you smoke, you absolutely will get lung cancer. No. But I still wouldn't recommend it.
I would say this because since we were talking about this particular topic, I remember my someone watching a show called Viking on Netflix.
Mm.
This is going way back, right? Notice time. And I watch how they grow up the young boys. Young boys starting their crush way early. When they were 11, 12, they're feeling themselves. They're testing who they like the most. Nothing is stopping them. But their father telling them, do you know what it feel like to be in love? And see the test and see they have to understand and they express themselves more. They're like, okay, you think you're man enough to go to that next level? And sometimes you can see in their face, they'll be like, like, what do you mean you're not sure? Like, you think you're not ready? You're not ready? Or you feel kind of, you feel like you don't like it? These are normal conversation of yesteryear's conversation before this retarded so-called civilization. Because the marriage rate back then, it was extremely high. With meaning, in the Viking cultures, I don't know how they go about it. They go bananas.
See, in the Viking culture back then, they would even share women sometimes. Like
Mm.
it was normal back then. Even in Roman times, that was normal.
Bingo.
Not as much Greek, but they did do it too. Back in the
This,
medieval times, they share women. It was normal because
some
again,
African,
you didn't have STDs. But
some
if
African
she
culture.
get caught, you know, having another man's seed in her, that's like a death sentence, literally.
Now, there's some
Mm.
African tribe that practice that same type of mindset whereby with the term, they rent out their wife to visiting guests.
Yeah, it's wife sharing. What? Yeah, I remember I was in college and I read that there's certain tribes in Africa. It's like a courtesy. It's just like you offer someone a drink when they come into your house. It's like if they're staying overnight here, have my wife.
And Wademaya went to visit that tribe, and he actually
Isn't
had
it
to.
taking like swinging?
No, Wademaya, if you go to the guy YouTube channel called Wademaya, he actually visited that particular tribe. It's kind of crazy. And he had to dress up in their culture where, and it was actually, they be doing it to this present time. They're distant away from present society. They don't follow present society mindset. They stick to their culture, which have been dated back longer than what you expected. And yes, if you are a visitor and they want to entertain you, yes, like you give you beer, they give you their wife. They lend you. And that right there, for any present modern day today society person, will throw you off. But same thing happened in Madagascar. Same thing happened in Asia. There's a particular place in Asia whereby I don't think Ghost of Sparta will survive because they were kidnap his ass. They fight over men, meaning how you want to say it? Man, it's like a high commodity to them. They can get one for themselves. They'll get sometimes some will force to share because they want to be a kid. So if we say you in that area, we're never going to see you again. We be long gone. Don't start looking for it right now, Ghost. Do not start
No, I'm
looking
actually
for it.
looking for something else.
Uh, oof.
So, like we know the oil is professional. I'm gonna use Japan for example, who had the geisha. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, close
They,
enough. Yep.
yeah, they practice that very well to this day. There are a lot of women who still paint their head face white and do the whole 9 yards. And you go into a bathhouse, I believe, and they're like, you go here, pick a woman. Like 20, 30 women come out and like, meeny, miny, mo.
Yeah,
Or
I
can I
but
have
that
more than
I
one?
talk about a particular village whereby you going there, it's mostly women, less men. Meaning, if you're a new guy in that area, you're more likely they'll cater to you, they'll entertain you, but you're not realizing they're fattening you up so that when you least expect it, whoosh, into the hunt, you're doomed. They're gonna drain all life force out of you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean, it sounds like a cool thing for guys, but how much endurance can you take when you get drained out multiple times?
See,
I'm just saying.
here's the thing we keep forgetting to talk about is okay. We already talked about growing up with it. We know it's the oldest technique in the world. We know geishas. We know this.
Hmm.
But when is it okay to explore those fantasies with? You know I'm going with this question, David.
I get it because Paul said it before. When you're married, that's okay within the bedroom. There's
Yeah.
no restriction.
I don't.
There's no restriction. A few pastors have spoke on this issue, and they say the reason why a lot of churches don't want to speak on it because yeah, ministers are to make it seem like it's taboo when it's not. One particular female gets it in one particular church. I told it clear. I'm sure Mr. Paul seen it. They asked her how to keep my marriage going strong. She told them, "Yeah,
Yeah. Straight.
and
Yeah.
and,
Straight up.
and you can see her eye went clean white. She was like,
Yeah.
Oh,
she was like,
I got pushback. Hang on, I got a little pushback on that one. So I have taught. I worked in a hospital, so you guys know that. I work in healthcare, and I have conversations with nurses all the time. So when I worked for Lehigh, so one of the conversations, one of the nurses goes to me, it's a Wednesday. Okay, what's the big deal about Wednesday? I go sleep with my husband. Why is that a bad thing? I'm like, you don't understand. You're not married, and that never processed it to me. To I got older. Now that I'm a lot older now, like, oh, because she doesn't want to. She just lays there and makes some sound and call it a day. That's not
But
okay.
again, but that gets back to what I said earlier about
Mhm.
again the miseducation of sexual education, especially when it comes to women, because that activity for the longest time that was associated with women of the night. I don't want to get strikes or whatever, but that profession. And so for the woman, it's like I'm married. I'm not one of them, and so I'm not going to engage in that. But again, who taught them that? It's been perpetuated that again. If you want to be religious about it, go to the Bible. There's no prohibition. In fact, now I heard one guy, David. He was in the Song of Solomon, and the way he broke it down, when the man is talking about the woman's body parts, and when he gets down to talking about your navel is like a goblet full of wine, the Greek word that's used there is not goblet. So I'm just saying, why women have these ideas that ooh that's nasty, ooh that's this or that or whatever
but,
when it's
but
not.
guess what? But guess what, Mr. Bennett? Those same kind of women that were thinking that are more than likely the one who gets stressed out, postpartum depression, have all type of weird illness whatsoever, but they claim these things are not meant to be, but they're the one who mostly gone through the medicine cabinet more than anything else, compared to the one who are jumping on the chandelier. Shout out to Take Heed to the Message. You should never expose our people. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna hold you for that. She's not taking no med. She's now on postpartum depression. She on no medicine, but she giddy and she's happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
You ever notice the
See,
difference?
now the last two comments here. See, again, I think this is the problem. This is a major problem. So go back and see the first. Most women are mothers and raise new human beings. They should have respect for themselves. True, no problem there. Why would a son respect his mother if he's loose and a daughter will be loose with her husband? Absolutely not. If anything, that should be something that should be celebrated. Yeah. And if your children ask you, what are you and daddy doing? You should tell them. This is what married people do.
I
No,
think
no.
what she's
How you
trying
want
to
to say
say
this?
is
How you
not.
want to say this? I'll give you a scenario. Mom, Dad, what you doing? I'm trying to get you a butter because you're bugging me.
However you want to say it. But I'm just saying. But there's a mindset here. Well, I'm not talking about a woman sleeping around or if you got kids and you're just having randoms or stepping outside your man. I'm talking about in a marital setting. There is nothing wrong with whatever you do. And then the next one, show the next comment.
Okay.
A woman can be sexual without being slutty.
There's no such, if you're married, there's no such thing.
But here's the problem. And I think what she's trying to say is, and I think back me up if I'm wrong here, is a lot of women who are in marriage will not stay with their husbands. They start sleeping around, and
that's totally that's infidel. That's totally wrong. But if I was to guess, and again, this person would have to correct me if I'm wrong. Again, classy and trashy. In your marriage, you can be whatever you want to be. And so again, and I think that's how most, now again, I'm not going to speak for this person, but most women think in these terms, even within a marriage.
Can I be a devil advocate here? Because I think what you're referring to are those who portrayed outside of their marriage, like the way they dress outside. Maybe you would have called the 304 uniform or
That's fine.
The Magic City uniform, so to speak. Now, my suggestion would be do that for your man inside the home. Don't do it outside the home. They're not what we would say we want a woman a lady in the street, but in the bedroom.
In the bedroom, yeah.
So you come out.
But a lot of women don't make that. They don't make that distinction. Like I said, I think most women think the way Peter, when he talked about the woman he works with, the Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I think a lot of women used to work with. But again, I think that's how a lot of women think because that's how they've been taught. In fact, and David, I don't know about your community. I'll talk about the black community. I'll talk about my upbringing.
Let me tell
you couldn't get. Hang on, let me say. You couldn't get that back in my day from most black women. It's like if you want that, you go to the white woman. So again, so there was always now I think that's changed to some extent, especially the way we talk about 304s and all this other kind of stuff. So I guess that's not the taboo anymore, but that was like a taboo thing. It's like, I am not doing that. You want that? Go to the white girl. She'll do it for you. That was the mindset in the 80s, in the early 90s. So again, what your opinions, what your views are, what you've been brought up with, you're going to carry that forward into your relationships unless you get a re-education. That body exploration, sexual exploration is good. It is healthy if the two parties are consenting. And again, what it does is it also helps you explore yourself, because how do you know you're going to like something if you never tried it? And you might wind up saying, wow, that was the greatest thing ever. But you might went in with some premonitions or ideas. But again, marriage gives you that safety net with which you can, explore that and not be, no one's like, your spouse isn't going to go talking with the girls in the office like, yeah, guess what he tried to do to me. That shouldn't happen.
Let me speak on that, because when you mentioned that on African, I think you got a point, because seeing some African movie that happened dated back before colonization.
Mm-hmm. Talk about that.
Marriage back then, it was more like let me be funny about here. If that man not making a woman make a lot of noises during that marriage night, something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is, because when you hear the man put it in work and she is singing different type of note, the mother of the bride feel like, yeah, I'm ready to go, woman, because she's doing her job. Don't ask. Ghost, don't feel shit.
So here's one other statistic.
African culture, it's funny, because when I look at it, I was like, hold on. Because they make sure to go into that hunt and make sure no one disturb them, but they're not too far from there. But when they start to hear the sound, they get into work and she's making all that. They're like, yes.
Well, that even goes back to Bible days, David, because again, remember on your wedding night, Old Testament now. So Old Testament, what you were supposed to the next day on your wedding night, the next day you were supposed to take that hymen blood and put it on the outside of the house to let them know that now y'all official. That was so yeah, I would think the
Bingo.
whole community would know what was going on because nobody had privacy. No one was going away and doing
Well,
anything. You had to
here's
demonstrate the next day that you broke it. You no pun intended, but you broke her in.
here's where a little monkey wrench I'm going to throw in our conversation. So
I'm
statistics
gonna,
have
gonna put a
proven,
monkey wrench in that one.
David, go eat a pickle. Go eat a pickle. So, so the monkey wrench I'm going to throw. The statistics have proven men usually cheat because they're not getting sexually satisfied for some weird reason, whatever the reason is. She doesn't want to give it up, or he has weird fetish, whatever that reason is. She and him are not communicating in the bedroom part of it. So, by that said, speak up and say tell your wife what the hell you want. That's what I always say. And if you want you want like some weird lingerie, go get it for her. Shit, what's wrong with that? Or well, like Paul said, if it's between your wife and you, it's not whatever fetish you
Uh,
have. That's up
let
to
me
you.
let me go further than that. Look, I think there's a big issue with this compatibility and having this type of conversation. I thought to notice this thing that it's a lot of it's something that have not been spoken on. I'm sure the Paul better know this very very well because he said when before he got married he had a book that he wrote down what he want to accomplish, right?
Oh, his resume.
And
Yeah.
his resume, yeah, but he makes sure this is what want to happen in my marriage. The time going to be. How
Although
about
I didn't get that explicit, I would say, but I all I said was in my document.
mhm,
So again, the document was simply just a vehicle for further conversation, further
mhm.
exploration. But I did put in there, yes, sex is important. If you ain't down
There
with
you go,
sex, if you one of these puritanical women that thinks that sex is only for procreation or whatever, then move on. I'm not interested in you.
bingo.
So
That
again, that was it. Now the we didn't get heavy into conversation until we were near engagement. Before that took place. But again, I do agree. You need to be in your courtship, even if you're celibate. So let's say if you're highly religious and the activity is not going to happen, at least you need to be communicating what your expectations are.
bingo.
And
And
if you're not compatible there, if she says absolutely no way, I can't do that, I'm not doing any of that, then she might not be the one for you then. And it's okay to walk away from that rather than being in a situation where you're locked in and you
there
can't get
you
out.
go. And that's what I'm trying to point out because I think that is where the biggest issue in most marriage because it's something that it's never been spoken heavy on is sexual compatibility. And when I'm
But
saying
again, most women aren't comfortable with it because they've been taught not to.
bingo, they are taught not to, but even though they were taught not to, even in the church made it more
Oh,
like a taboo.
forget it. Yeah.
Because after I saw the past video of last year and some of the past, that lady guest, that image never left my mind when she said what she did to her to keep her man happy. And the woman was like, and women looking at her like, nigga, please. Like, you want to go do that to your man? Like, you that punk? And you could see, she was like, I'm proud of it. And the husband was like,
I'm
hey,
married, y'all ain't. So
hey. She like,
so
I'm happy. I don't know about you.
yeah.
And that is something that I'm me and Bishop Paul are almost similar, but I was more of a Bible looking at the scripture at a very young age of 7. And I was looking at certain things, see what people were saying in the church. I was like, the master's not master. What you preaching here is not connected to what I'm seeing here. Something is
Mm-hmm.
missing here. I always ask that question for many as many times you see them. They're jumping around. Never go through it. Then lately some ministers start to realize that what making a lot of marriages fail. Because that aspect of it alone is made to be taboo or you can't talk about it. Yeah, but yeah, you could see a pastor met with multiple women behind closed door. You could see the first lady getting her back broken by another dude, right?
David, I give you a great example of that. I was going through confession, and Father Cosadino, it goes to me, "Well, Peter, I know you're a young man." I'm like, "Young man? I'm older than you." And he goes, "That's not the point." He goes, "You're not supposed to have." I went, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, Father! Stop right there. I'm gonna sin over and over and over." And he looks up like, and he goes, "He just please help him, God, just help him a little bit." And every time we have this conversation, "Well, Peter," I went, "Don't even go there." Every time he sees me, he goes, "I went, Father, don't even bother. You're just wasting
Mhm.
your breath. You got better
And
seeing Jesus coming back to earth today before you see me stop having sex." I went to him. Simple as that.
but
Mhm.
in it, the Paul Bennett say crystal clear. Even the scripture went in detail describing it. So, which you gonna take? What a man say or what the Bible says?
Right. And the only thing I would say, as far as your what you were saying, your conversation with Father
Other,
Casadino, again, that's what I'm saying. What for those, and I'm not saying you specifically, but I'm saying for those who advocate that men or young men should not do that. And I'm talking about the X. What alternative are you giving them? Because what you're doing, Peter, is in many ways a lot more dangerous.
hmm
When you're doing that, there's very little harm that can come from that. But I'm saying, but when you get with a woman, you don't know where she's been. You don't know, there's always the fear of pregnancy. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in that situation. Or she could just be crazy. Or you may drop that Greek mojo on her and she may flip out on
See,
you.
here's my problem with that. I
So
usually
I'm
attract
just saying, but
crazy,
Or
short.
she could be, or she could be a Medusa and she drain your whole life force, and
now
you
she'll
trying
be
to
like Conan the
How cute
Barbarian.
you guys
no,
ask.
Now it's
no,
like no, she'd be like Conan the
no,
Barbarian when he goes in with that wolf witch,
no.
and he
I,
he
I
he
got
hit
something
it, and then
better.
she transforms
No,
on
no,
us.
no, don't be a
So
menace to the
first of all,
don't
I
be a
always
menace to society while
attract.
drink. No, remember that movie? Don't be a menace to society while drinking and gin and juice. And she
Mm,
act crazy, and he was like, "Oh hell no!" And he tried to run. He said, "Nah, you just started."
So first of all, you guys don't. The women who are attracted to me are usually short and crazy. Yes,
okay,
short and
so
crazy.
again, so you're putting yourself at risk in on a lot of levels dealing with these crazy women.
And short.
So and short, but I'm just saying, but that's so again, for people say, well, don't do that, but I couldn't in good conscience tell them to do what you do. I'll just say that because again, the risks. Again, you don't want. How often have I talked about in these spaces? You don't want a kid before you are ready for that. You just don't. Kids got enough stress as it is. Last thing they want to be coming in the world by accident, or you got to deal with the deletion question. Or you just don't want that kind of complications. So again, that for me, again, from a practical perspective, not so much a religious or moral one, from a practical perspective, I'm not going to tell a kid or a young person not to engage in that, but you're better off going the other way. Unless you're going to get married at 18 years old, then, I don't know if I could tell them to be okay. Be celibate. Don't even please yourself. I in good I couldn't recommend that to a kid. So yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
see, that's
Hey, I
hey,
mean,
no, that's
and there's a health. Now, let me just point this out because again, there's been information out there when people talk about self-soothing or whatever. Now, again, this is a stat from Harvard Health. And there's been a study that was done, an 18-year-old study, started in actually longer than that, started in 1986. And they say that men who ejaculate at least 21 times a month have a 20% less chance of prostate cancer. So if I wanted to, I could even sell it unless you got, like I said, if you got a lady who's up for that kind of action every month, good luck with that. I could even sell it that it could be even a healthy activity because, because again, we're supposed to release. So if you don't have a wife,
I have never heard of that one personally.
this is I'll drop the stat in the chat. Frequency of ejaculation and prostate cancer. This is from Harvard. I'll put it in the private chat, and you can put it in your public chat if you if you want. Because I saw this cited on a site. This doctor's Indian American doctor. She does a lot of public health stuff, and she brought it up, and I looked it up myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're married, you're a healthy man, you have ever to go banana on your wife.
Indeed. And that's if she cooperates. Yeah, it says even so. It says in all men who average 4.6 to 7 ejaculations per week were 36 less likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer before the age of 70 than men who ejaculated less than 2 to 3 times a week on average.
You hear that? Go wow.
So, or if you can't look, at my age, again, I'm not a marathon runner. My wife isn't a marathon runner anymore. All right, that's asking a lot.
Ladies,
that's asking a lot.
Ladies, if you're married, handcuff your husband and have your way with him.
No, or you get him. Or churros. He probably gets a whole system in churros.
No.
I'm saying, but she can't. She may not be in it. I mean, come on. We've been married. Look, David, we've been married, right? Grooming. You've been in serious relationships 21 times a month or more, or 28. It says here 7 days, 28 times a month.
Well, let's put it like this: when your lady start looking younger and younger, at time pass out, you keep doing it too much, you start to wonder what the hell happened. Like I just felt younger.
I'm just saying, someone who finds a lady, especially at our ages, who still got that kind of level of energy, man. Look, you're a blessed man. Some of us, we
I know
we compromise. We might be maybe half of that.
Age, me almost 40. The Kraken doesn't want to go down. He wants to stay up all the time.
Here the problem. The problem is that movie, Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins. A lot of people have watched that movie, and so what happened to him? When he was like, she was done. She got on the treadmill and stopped running.
All right, let's get back on topic. So, what role do you think X-rated takes in our everyday culture and community?
No, let me be crystal clear. It's not about if it's X-rated or what. I think the problem is this. This today's society norm created a vacuum for that to happen. Because we talked about it already. Other ethnic group on yesteryears never had a problem until we start pushing this capitalism nonsense of instead of getting married at a young age, you get married later. What do you think would have happened? You're hearing kids are eager to jump into that at the age of 11, 12, 13, 14. Our grandparent or our great grandparent got married at what age? Do the math.
Young as shit.
So, what do you think created the vacuum that we have in today? It because we're not putting marriage at a young, we're putting marriage at a later yet. So, what do you think when you know how you have a loaded gun and you keep loading it with more ammo and you keep running more ammo and you don't shoot it? What's going to happen?
I think if men, because we have a rage hormone in us, let's be honest, and you know very well I'm talking about, David. If we don't blow our loads, you're going to see a lot of angry motherfuckers walking down the streets.
No, God forbid did ever happen. This could be, I'll say, only a skip in the movie. If you see a human mass of men say enough is enough, and they see any woman and they're just, now you think the society crash. Like, what the hell going on? But you got to think about it. You're pushing a stupid ideology. That's why I said, if you want to escape this madness, stack your bread, be like reckless ways, move to another nation, and start your own new community. whereby we don't practice this type of bullshit over here. Because I'll be honest, I was raised to the point where I wanted to get married at a very young age. There's never a problem to that, but for some reason, society say that is not the case. But Anton got married early, and 20 years later, he had a successful marriage.
But here's the thing: I think it's a global issue, though, especially in developed countries. Because again, if you look in developed countries, we talked about this on the parenting show. Most developed countries, the birth rates have dropped because, again, in those countries, again, career, quote unquote, freedoms or whatnot, those come before before family. And so we see what's happening in Japan. We see what's happening in China. China now. Remember, they had that one child policy for a while, and now they're trying to import women in. They're like, look, we need women over here to have families and whatnot.
We all learned that in high school.
Right, but I'm just saying. But I'm saying I don't just want to pin the problem on America. I'm saying any developed nation or developing nation is going to run into this situation when people are not going to prioritize. But even if they did, though, my only thing is this: to the earlier point that we made, even if you marry early, that still does not guarantee that you're going to be sexually fulfilled if people don't go into it with the right mindset. And this is why I talked about, again, sexual education, particularly sexual education of young women. It has to change. Parents, you're going to have to get off your puritanical views and talk straight with your kids about the subject and paint a positive image of it, that this is healthy, this is good, this is normal. Just because if you do have a sex drive that would allow for 21 plus times a month, you're not a freak.
You're healthy.
You're healthy. And I'm saying that so that the attitudes that we're raising, even if you get together, because again, these older generations, they weren't, a lot of stuff that's normal today, they weren't about that life back then.
And now lately, we're hearing about how many old folks are making so much noises in the apartment. They think they're fighting. No, we're not fighting. We doing what we're supposed to be doing.
And you can make an argument that would help to break them out of that. Because again, older generations, there's certain things, like I said, you wouldn't do. You might be able to say that the ex gave them at least options, or they went to the bookstore. Back in the day, we went to the bookstore, and I remember seeing couples in the sexual education section of the bookstore reading the Kama Sutra. So I'm saying that older. People in their 50s and 60s. I knew they were older. They both of them, the husband and then the wife in there. It's like, okay, we can try that. We move.
But the older couple that was reading the book also were college students also reading it as well.
Oh well, yeah, they'll read anything they get their hands on. I'm saying when I see a couple in their 60s reading the Kama Sutra in the bookstore, reading the Kama Sutra or looking to buy it, I'm like.
But here's the problem.
Right on.
Not that only content of it. The people who would actually read it was actually the nerds that was reading Kama Sutra. Because all these sport jocks think they have all the game, but not realizing, undercoverly speaking, some of these nerds would equipping themselves with certain knowledge to throw off these jocks. Say, if you're not careful, we can throw your girl right in front of you. And that could happen.
Yeah, that's almost natural. I'm talking about the revolution that I'm seeing with you have older couples. Couples been married for a while or whatnot, and they're like starting to experiment with stuff that's like, oh well, we never did this back in the day, but we've been missing out.
Here in America with the books. In the UK they have the sex therapy shop. You actually go in there. I saw a documentary and I was blown away. I was like, what? They actually have a sex therapist who walked the couple through the process of how to learn how to enjoy it. And I was like, yeah, UK people are way too open. That's not gonna happen in the US. The US would be like, I don't know if we could do such a thing. It's a little bit too much, But in UK and
What's
France,
Twinkie Twinkie? Hey.
This is a normal thing in the UK because they understood what the problem was.
Right.
They understood it, and they were trying to address it. But some of these women,
we're the only country, David, that we're walking down the street and we don't see friendly females all over the place with license. Every other country, including yours probably, has licensed women to please, non-married men. If you know where I'm going with this,
I know.
Japan,
Now,
Italy,
now,
Greece.
now, Grooming. Let me ask you this. We talked about from Greece. We talked about how a boy gets his education.
Hmm.
What do mothers say to their daughters generally? Is it
That's a good question.
And you don't have to give me the specifics. I'm saying, but is it positive? Is it? Remember that line from My Big Fat Greek Wedding when the mom tried to talk to the daughter on the day of the wedding,
Yeah,
and I forget what she said exactly.
there are lions in the bedroom.
Is that common? Is it you know is that what a mom would say to a daughter or something like that? I
I don't
mean,
know, to be honest with you, because I don't have a daughter. I don't have.
obviously, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
just
I
saying if
don't
you,
have, a cousin. I was there at the time or whatever. I don't know. I can't answer that question. But
mm,
what I can answer the question is well, it was one saying that every Greek says to their kid at some point, w- daughter or son, you use your hand for three things in life. They say to you in Greece, you use it for fish, steak, and a woman. That is oldest Greek thing. And I looked at my godfather and my mother. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
do me a favor, Ghost. Say that in Greek. How's it go in Greek?
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Έχεις χουσπάς το χέρι σου με τρία πράγματα. Γυναίκα, ψάρι και στέκι.
I think it sounds better in Greece.
It does sound a little better in Greek. But no, seriously,
Yeah, it does.
because you have to take the bones out of the steak. You have to use your hands.
Right.
Same thing with the fish. You got to use your hands. A woman needs to be like,
Now, I hope that this video don't cause trouble. That
probably
you
will.
hear not. No, let me tell you, I say hope, I mean trouble. In a way whereby you hear the whole entire apartment and everybody going bonkers. We're like, what the hell
That's
just
a
happened?
good thing. Look,
Not a good thing, but
that's a great thing.
well,
People again,
I
people are
was talking about the officer knocking on the door, like, you might want to, you know what? Let's leave this building. We done. There's no comment this one.
So, David and Paul, why do you think people see this as a negative thing as much?
again, thousands of years. Again, religion primary. I would say religion primarily has been responsible for this,
Mm-hmm.
and just again the social mores that have come out of it. At least for women, like I said, men generally, it's like I said, it's a sign of your masculinity to be a vibrant, viral sexual being. You're kind of looked at positive. James Bond, for example, is the man. He might be the man of all time because again, he had to have at least 3 women in every James Bond movie. I think that was part of the script.
But look at it on the African aspect of things. Before the country was colonized, it was okay for a man to have more than one wife. It showed that he can not only support his woman, he can also provide everything, and that was a normal thing. Those who can actually have more than one wife. The thing is, it showed a level of strength because one, you can't be no weakling having more than one wife. You just can't. You gotta be a man of strength and power because one, you did, the next day you gotta take care of that one. The next day you gotta take care of that one. So it ain't no punk, skinny punk showing off. You have to, how you want to say, be of a warrior class. And I talked to a lot of people from my country and other countries say that for some reason it seemed to be better back then before colonization. After colonization, it just whatever was being taught made it seem like it's a taboo.
Yeah, but it's even in the art, right? I mean, if you look at some of the ancient African art, the drawings, the figures of men and women engaged in activity and whatnot, the phallic art, right? I mean, it's like a lot of the art has pictures of the genitalia and stuff like that. I mean, but you're right. I think
The Greeks,
certainly
bro, like the statues, they were nude. Their testicles are hanging out everywhere, and
right.
and that was
And
strange for
they're
them.
the Asian country that have a statue of that. like this is a set of fertility and prosperity. I was like,
Hmm. Yeah.
okay.
So I think really, and in particular, I would say Christianity, and I would even say Islam, because Islam is, is the newest of the three monotheistic religions. They're the newest ones, so they have some influence as well. Again, I don't know everything about what's taught when it comes to sexuality within Islam, so I'm not going to speak, completely on that. But I think certainly Africa has been colonized by Islam and Christianity. And I
Hmm.
think that, both of those fly in the face. Is where Ekene would come in here, because he could probably, school us on that. But I think that has certainly changed, certainly the values of many people, or if not the most of people in Africa, the continent. Um, Few people like Ekene exist that have that ancient or that African mindset. Um, so those things I don't think can be
I
avoided.
spoke to people from Kenya. I spoke to people from Uganda. I spoke to people from Ghana. I spoke to people from South Africa. And what I noticed is it's almost similar. Those things were practiced before the European people came in and put their own belief system. It has never been a problem. Imagine a time whereby you had young girls at the age of 12 to 16 hoping to find a man that will make them their wife. They were eager. Yeah, a young girl hoping to be chosen to be wives. Yeah, a young boy hoping to find one that will connect with them. They'll feel like could be that's their woman. But sometimes they're nervous and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm not too sure," because that's when you have competition where you're two other guys competing for that one girl. The best man win. If you miss out, you feel like, oh, I should have that kind of thing. It was more competitive. But these women are looking forward to being wife more on an eager state. But today's time is more a complete 180 in here in this nation. Outside the US, somehow there's still groups, still going group, they're saying screw society norm. I want to get married. I'm not doing what these people are doing. I'm not gonna be 30, 40, 50 and single and childless. No, that's their problem. They see what the mistakes they're making. They see the ton of medication they have to take. Let's be real. A lot of these women who want to push this feminism ideology, a huge majority of them are mentally sick. If you think about it, they're on prescription drugs, one for the rest of their life. Who fault is it? But yet they hate another woman who is not on a prescription, who don't suffer from postpartum depression. She got a strong, healthy man that she can take advantage of, even when he feel like he's tired and no, we'll have fun tonight. And she's stress free.
So this has a connection, and it's my next question. What is the link or connection between X-rated and body image?
Explaining
I
on
think it
what?
has a lot. I mean, I would say this: no more than the mainstream already been. Right? We grew up with Miss America pageants and Barbie dolls and beauty stand. I mean, that's mainstream. Remember back in the day, back in the '70s, all the women were thin, hype, super, extra thin on TV. There was about so
Okay,
the body image thing has always been a
and
something in the
now
larger society.
that's the
What to look like.
contradiction. That's the contradiction. It's funny how they put that body image, but at the same token, based on history time, you have the same people who were pushing it, were chasing after African women who shaped what total opposite of their body image. And you have Jordan Museum showcasing how some of these African women were built a certain way. If that were the case, then why we have bozo like Bill Gates trying to experiment on African people to get them sterilized? For what purpose? Dude, you're not African. Get the hell out of there. You're a Caucasian monkey. African, not your business. Let
Mm.
them populate they want to. If you don't want to populate, that's your own business. But leave people alone. That's how to put your unnecessary ideology on certain people. The idea of saying that white people are the train rate, newsflash, medically speaking, Why every time you try to extract them from our genes, and see you can apply to yours because you know your gene is failing. Hello. But the thing that when we talk about, I'm not trying to go sidetrack, but I'm saying this is something I've been noticing a lot. It's always while rewriting something that you know is false. Don't put your false ideology, but you're doing it for because of what?
Mm,
What is the main agenda behind it?
mm. Let me get back to answer Peter's question direct. Like I said, I think there like I still agree. There's a larger, I think there is a larger framework in society that is trying to form an image of what people should look like, body image and whatnot. But that does not exclude the X community, especially when you talk about how the women look. For example, and again, I know they're not the only ones, but I know when it comes to like body hair, for example, like if you looked at the stuff from like the 70s and whatnot, everybody was hairy, men and women. I mean, they call it the
Well, Paul,
full
you would never fit in that.
the yes, yeah, a horrible. That was a barbaric ancient time. So
Some had some
I'm trying to modernize.
some
I'm
had
trying to
dreadlocks on.
modernize the humanity here. So yes, but that was the caveman era of X. Was yeah, everybody was hairy and it didn't really armpits, chest hair. Remember the image of the 70s was the guy with the open shirt with his chest hairs and his medallion on his chest. That was like the masculine male image of back in the day. And I think certainly with the women, when it came to pubic hair shaving, it definitely got to a point now where it's almost like, you don't see too many women with that in the industry anymore. But even the guys, I mean, I don't. Who knows? Again, I can't pinpoint or whatever. But would there be a company called Manscaped or whatever it is if it wasn't for the corn industry? I don't know, but I just know that certainly in that industry when people started removing body hair. Now I know Brazilians. I know they're very anal about body hair. Shave everything, men and women. Like body hair isn't a thing in Brazil. But the hippies, but yeah, but I could make that inference. Again, I can't prove it, but I think in terms of how people when it comes to their personal grooming, no pun intended.
I don't agree with
That
you
I
anymore, so I'm good.
okay.
Spartan now.
So so I think maybe in that sense, it changed how people looked at themselves. I mean, very few people, unless you're into that. I mean, people say they're like bears. There's the men, they call them bears if you're like super hairy, like Peter. But for a lot of guys, especially young guys in particular, body shaving back in the 70s or 80s, they thought something was wrong with you. Either you were of another persuasion or something like that. But now body shaving is very normal, men and women. And I wouldn't, and I would speculate that I think they had something to do with that.
It became an art form now because some people like it clean, some people like a certain shape.
Well, I don't know. Well, these days, I think if people who like, I'm not gonna treat this dead. It's called full bush. The guys who are kind of into that today, it's almost like it's like a fetish
It's
thing.
rare. It's rare. It's rare. Very rare.
It's just not something. But the guys who go for that, and they even have, from what I understand, they have categories for that. That's different. But the norm, the mainstream, for most people, yeah, take it off, shave everything, nice and clean, and certainly I like being clean. I admit that, obviously, since I am the president. So yeah, so I prefer that look. Overall, but yeah, I would say that would be a major. I would say an impact, a part of the impact
And
on
some
body
look
image.
some look at based on body hygiene because they believe when you shave, it allow your body to breathe. Because think about the skin pore. If you understand the mechanic behind your skin, like if your skin is not able to it's to push out sweat, in the proper form, it can build up all type of acne issue. And I'm not too sure, but maybe because the only reason they do that because of other health issues that come along the way from not taking care of that area when it comes to
Oh,
female.
well, definitely for the women. I know women is like, especially when it comes to their monthlies, it's cleaner. I mean, obviously, if you got a full wig down there, uh, it's,
Those
they can get
those
it'll get a
dreadlocks.
little messier. So for a lot of women, they love that for no other reason alone is that's it's a lot easier and tighter to clean that up. But again, I know there's some people that's like, look, pheromones are there. If you shave your pubic hair, then the pheromones aren't there. But having said that, now I know Muslims. This was I don't want to put it all on the X industry. From what I understand, Muslim men are required to shave their pubic hair.
I never heard of that one.
Look that up. Now, again, I don't know if it's every sect or whatever, but in Islam, it's supposed to be a thing where part of cleanliness or whatnot, both men and women shave. It's weird. They grow their beards, but they shave their pubic hair. From what I understand, it is a religious thing, a sacred
I do
thing.
know about the little I do know about the culture when the women wear, I don't know what it's called, when they cover their head or their faces. It's for them for their only time they're supposed to take that off when they give themselves to their man in a sexual
Mhm.
encounter. So that's the only time they were supposed to take that off, from what I know. Don't quote me on that to the T, because I'm
Yeah.
not positive either.
Yeah, so this is I'm just doing a little quote here. Shaving pubic hair is considered recommended practice, part of the Sunnah, the Prophet Muhammad's way of life, meaning Muslim men and women are encouraged to remove their pubic hair regularly as a part of a good hygiene and religious practice. So I'm saying I don't want to. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to put it all on the X, but certainly in Western and developed nations and whatnot. I mean, again, we've come a long way from what people used to do in the 70s or didn't do in the 70s and 80s and what they're certainly doing now.
Yeah.
Brazilian waxes and all that kind of stuff is pretty much the norm now in the States. All kinds of methods for which they're removing that. So I think that's an impact.
I think David waxes once in a while. All right, guys. I was going to ask one more question, but let's call it now because by the
I'll
time we
be
get the
the
question,
That's
one
right.
man. I'm not
I got a little more
gonna
time.
share my secret.
all right. The last question I was going to ask: escorts. Do you guys think it has changed the market on the X industry?
I won't say that. I don't think they changed it because if you think about the escort industry outside the nation, it's legal in Australia, it's legal in the UK, it's legal in Japan. You got the red
I
light
think
district.
everywhere but here.
Well,
But
Africa, I don't think it's legal.
it is.
Really? No, legal, that means it's public. It's on the books. It's not, I don't think it is
Not
in.
Yeah,
only
that's what
on
we're
the
talking
book,
about.
but it's not only on the book. It's also you created a new culture whereby you have
I agree with you there.
politicians who are stealing money from the government, and you need to spend on the young girls, whereby a lot of the young girls benefit from that, whereby they know their time is limited with these big men, so they whatever they can collect, they got a bitch on the side with it. That is a known thing. So yeah, it's a known factor, it's a known issue. Not just my country, but a few other African countries that have people who are so corrupt, stealing money from the government and spending on young girls only. So there's nothing you can't stop it no more. You just
Yeah.
it's there.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a major factor simply because for that you still got to pay for it. I think what's really changed the game in recent years, especially with the internet, is that the free access. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that you still have sites that charge. I mean, because there's so much free stuff that's out there. Why would you even need to? But back in the day, like I said, you either had to buy the magazine or buy or rent the videos, or you had to invest in it. But now everybody, as long as you got a phone, you have access to a whole world out there that is essentially free. So I don't think the those with means, I think they're always going to have access to it. I don't think that's ever changed. And again, if you're 18-year-old kid or whatever, what kind of money you're going to have anyway, unless, like you said earlier, unless your dad, who does have the money, takes you to the brothel for that purpose. So I think it's always going to be for those with means. I don't think it changes anything at all. And for younger guys who don't have that kind of money to invest, they're certainly not on a regular basis. You might do it once, but you're not doing it on the regular, not to at least to engage in regular sex. So I don't think it matters that much at all.
I totally agree. Anything else? You have anything else to say, David, before we move on?
No, I agree to the point. This topic it did bring back a lot of thought where we have discussed one before in the past interviewed because when you, I'm just gonna say this: if you want this division of society to disappear, encourage young marriage and watch it disappear by itself because they have been here throughout the past of time. Not only here in Asia, in North America, South America, in Africa, it's been here for so long. You're not gonna stop it, but you can help to reduce it.
All right. Paul, you want to go first because David went first?
Yeah, I'll go first because a couple quick points I want to make before we close out, and part of my closing. One, again, I'm not going to be here and advocate for such activity. Again, especially if you're a moral person, if you're Christian person, I can't in good conscience say, yeah, go and do that. I can't do that in good conscience. But I'm not going to be a hypocrite either and say I never did it. Certainly not in my youth anyway. So I'm not coming with that kind of energy. I'm not judging people like that for it. But I would say a couple things. One thing we didn't touch on tonight is on the women's side, because corn or X, by definition, it's pictures, video, also books. It's written. And it just so happens now when it comes to visual, 90% of that is about 85 to 90% of that is consumed by men. However, when it comes to written, 90% of that content is consumed by women. So I find it always interesting when women would rail against the visual stuff, but they're reading 50 Shades of Grey or one of these E. Macy Gray books or something like that, that is very graphic in detail in terms of describing sexual activity. That's also corn. So again, for those folks, you say, oh, it's different. Not according to the definition. Erotic literature is just as much that as the visual stuff. So I want to bring that to light also. So for women, y'all do it maybe in a different way than a lot of guys do it, but you're still doing it. So that's number one. That's the second. That's the second point. Third point would be, I didn't talk a lot about tonight about what I think there is some negative in this sense that a lot of stuff that's out there really doesn't have much to do with sex. I know we have fetishes and things like that, but some of the stuff that's out there, it's just for the sake of being sensationalized. That at the end of the day, I'm pretty basic. Anything that you do that can lead to a pregnancy is considered sex to me. So, some of the stuff is like, how can we be as extreme as possible? And if that in a lot of young people is forming their ideas on the basics, what, the fundamental, what sex is, then yeah, I think you need to have some education there. But if a kid's going to start out watching that stuff, yeah, that can get dicey. And I think that could get dangerous. But as I said earlier, this is a larger societal issue. Young people, but in think about this in general. I got to speak on this. We talked about on the Saturday show on the Operation Hangout show, and I brought up the point in terms of how the video game industry has people playing games longer. Now, do you want to get rid of video games? But people play video games, Call of Duty, for hours. or they're on social media for hours, or they're watching X for hours. None of those things are healthy. Anything done in extreme excess is not healthy for you. It's detrimental to your overall development, your social skills, meeting, having your relational skills, all those things. I don't care if you're doing X, I don't care if you're playing Call of Duty. You need to get a life and be able to become a fully functioning human being who can interact and develop your emotional intelligence as well as your intellectual intelligence. And so I'm not an advocate of anything that takes you away from that. But I'm not going to say, okay, we'll stop watching X, but then go out there and get with a bunch of 304s. I'm not going to do that either. And so we have to, if in practical, logical terms, not moral ones, it's a lot safer. And I would rather a guy, again, for lack of a better term, shoot his load than a load from a cartridge of a gun. But we got a problem there also that we also got to talk about. A lot of these youth are disconnected. And until society wants to start dealing with that, start dealing with the mental health of young men and even women in general, we're always going to have these problems. So again, good topic tonight. Again, I know certain people in my community may disagree. I respect that. But again, this is focusing on the gnat, whereas there's bigger problems. If you want people to be married, if you want them to have a healthy sexual view, we need to change the conversation, have that conversation younger with our kids, give them a healthy worldview, especially for our daughters, and help them to choose wisely in the decisions that they make. And hopefully that they can enjoy not just being married, but have total fulfillment on all levels in their marriage. If we can help people get to that, then that may be less of an issue, or you may decide to use it in your marriage. I don't know. Some people, they may find it useful in some sense, whether it be the books or the videos or whatever it is. But giving people a good foundation for healthy relationships, I think is really what we need to be talking about versus just focusing on this issue. But again, good topic, controversial. Again, grooming. I'm gonna keep calling you grooming. I'm so used to it now. But certainly, you brought the controversial topic. I think this was courageous that you brought this up, to be honest with you. And I just salute you for doing it, because I don't know if I would have did it unless you pulled me out of it. So like I said, it's your show. But I don't know if I was doing it. I don't know if I would have pulled it out. But I appreciate your boldness to tackle the topic.
Sometimes we have to step into a bold area or into a uncomfortable situation to talk about uncomfortable stuff, to make people educated and stuff. This is why I do the sparring arena. So I just want to clear that here. Let me get David in here. And David, wake up.
David. Black David.
Oh, tired. Oh, my bad. Forgive me. I was really tired, but
You don't have to apologize to us, brother.
this
Are
has
you good,
been a
brother?
great. This is a great show, but this topic, I will invite anybody. Sit down. If you're dating, don't be afraid to ask the question, because let's be honest, this topic will either be in your face, on a bulletin board, at the bus stop, at the movie theater, HBO, cinema. It's like there's no way you can hide from it. But I like what Paul pointed out. I like when Paul pointed out the obvious. It's just something you got to talk about. You got to share that with your team. You got to educate them about it. and the repercussion behind it when it's not properly managed. To me, my only view is this: for all the young adults who don't like what they see in today's society, I would suggest to ask yourself, what are you looking for? What are you seeking? What are you the desire that you have? If you feel like you cannot find that person looking for here, where you plan to go to, where you willing to go to, what step are you willing to take? Those are interesting questions to ask yourself first before you venture out just for do something crazy. You might shoot someone. I ain't talk about with a gun, it could be a different kind of gun. You know what I mean? But today's society has now become very sensitive. Who knows? That's the actual truth. I'm not gonna lie. It was a great topic. It was very interesting, very powerful, but it pointed out a lot of things that people were afraid to deal with or touch. I mean, speaking on this topic, it got me thinking about a lot of more things. I'm like, I might have to go down this avenue and see how I feel about it. You never know. But that's my final thought. Young generation, don't make the same mistake we make. Plan your own property, all right?
Like I said before, we have to fit into uncomfortable situations, bold situations, even curse situations to talk about stuff like this. So it's better to talk about it now till it's too late. Let's do a quick schedule update and get the heck out of here. So Saturday, we are talking about David's favorite subject, one of them, Voltron, the Legend of Heroes. Yes, and guess who's showing up this time?
Wally,
Dude, yeah, he's gonna be there anyway. Your little friend called Angry Elf contact me. He's definitely there. So he talked to me like, "I'm there." He goes, "I'm like, shit, dude. All right, calm down. I got you there."
yeah,
So
because
he's bringing some
that right
memorabilia
there,
with him.
it was the Easter egg waiting to happen. Because everybody, when you first thought about the Voltron thing on Netflix, you think they're gonna do it better. But until we start to see some hints and you saw the huge Easter egg, it was like, really?
Don't spoil it. Hold to it to the
I'm
show.
holding. I'm holding.
So on next Saturday, this is going to be another topic that a lot of people don't talk about is unspoken rule. Why women can't body shame men, but not vice versa.
Say that again?
Why unspoken rule? Why women can't body shame men, but not vice versa. And for the 18th, we will be talking about paper versus screen, movie versus book debate.
Oh,
So
boy. Then I
before
might
I
be for that one.
throw our closing intro, Mr. President, anything else?
No, we're good, sir. No, good stuff. What's our on Sunday? Do we have a confirmation
I
for
was going to
Sunday?
ask you after the show if you talked to
I haven't, but
I
I'll
text
reach
him.
out.
I haven't heard anything back yet. So
Okay, I'll take
I
that
want
on.
you,
Then. Okay,
if you
no
want to
problem.
throw him a text to see if
Yep,
he
I will.
responds to you.
Yep, I will.
So okay, except David, anything else on your side?
No, I'm trying to get ready for work tomorrow. I'm just tired.
I
Okay,
feel you.
so let's get out of here. Let me get the closing intro and let's get out of here, guys.